Hello, everyone. It's Joseph Whitnick here, coming to you from iConixxx, which every week we get together with a very iconic icon who has not only a lot to share, but the history that we have taken away from the icons in the last 34 weeks is unsurpassed to anything that I've ever seen in the last 40 years of my career. And I say stay tuned. And as always grab a piece of paper and a pen, because you never know when an icon as such has a book they may want to recommend you to read, or maybe a quote, or who knows, it could be something else that you just find fascinating that you want to journal and take note on. Also, if you want to see any more of our iConixxx, go to YouTube, iConixxx, iConixxx live. So it's YouTube iConixxx live. And you will see all the documentaries there. And please feel free to share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And even, get a hold of Chris and I. Let us know what you think, right? Or maybe we've missed an icon you want us to find, because we'll find them unless they're really high up there and we can't get up there with a ladder. But for today, I'm going to introduce to you my really good friend, almost like a sister. I have never met anyone that has lipstick last as long as she does. And it's Chris Sorby from Oxford, England. I love you, Chris. Welcome.
Thank you, Joseph. And you too could wear lipstick like this. But anyway, that's enough about us, because today we're so honored. This man that we're going to introduce you to is one of our industry's most loved hair designers, for very obvious reasons. When you meet him, he's hot. He's an artistic educator, a motivational speaker. I can't even speak. A visionary. He's a product innovator and author of the bestseller Beautiful Business. He's been inducted to the British Hall of Fame. He has many, many accolades that include World's Top Stylist. NAHA awarded him with the coveted Lifetime Achievement Award, and he won Editorial Stylist Award. Meet this extraordinary man, Sam Brocato.
Woo! Wow, he's been busy.
Oh, yeah. Sam, it's such an honor to have you with us. We really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy life, your house moves and salon and all of the above, and, being a dad, a wonderful dad. So we're so grateful to you. Thank you. I'm going to be asking you some awkward questions, probably, that might make you feel a little uncomfortable, but we want people to really get to know who is Sam Brocato. And then Joseph is going to be questioning you more about your career and how you got to where you are. So my first question to you is, what's the most important lesson that life has taught you?
Well, one thing is that whenever there's chaos, there's opportunity on its way. Whenever there's pain, there's going to be comfort, and always look to the horizon, because there's always going to be brighter days. And this isn't a reference to where we are. This is really what I believe. The minute I see chaos happening, I realize that this is an opportunity. It's here. It's somewhere. It's here. So that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
That's a valuable one, right, Joseph?
Yep, I love that. That's fair. Everything that you've said, I like that. Horizon. Yep.
Yeah.
True. Now let's go on a little field trip. Take us back to the age that you fell in love with hair and that you knew you wanted to actually get involved in the industry. And was it influenced from parents that were in the industry as well?
So I was an incorrigible little boy in junior high school. I was constantly being paddled in this principal's office. As a matter of fact, if you go to Trader Joe's and they hold up the sign, the number, I have post-traumatic stress syndrome from those because that is the paddle Mr. Bertro used on my little skinny butt when I would get sent to the office. So one day I got sent home for 3 days of suspension, and my mom, a homemaker at the time, had a short little job, 1 hour a day as a bookkeeper at the local beauty school. And she said, if you should come with me to the school, because when your dad comes home for lunch, he's going to be really angry and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I went with Mom, and I got there, and there were 63 students, and only 2 of them were not females. And that was pretty much it. They were putting their hands all over me. I was getting shoulder massages, scalp massages. There was this thing called a manicure. You have to know what that was. And genuinely, I never left. The school owner was so determined that day, he and his wife, Barbara, signed me up, arranged for me to get a student loan, and I never missed a day because I found my sweet, happy space. That everybody was so kind to me. I could be myself. Everything just came out, and it just started to rise. It was just amazing. It wasn't, it's like love at first sight. I mean, it really is. And I'll say on the flip side of that, sometimes it's not love at first sight. Sometimes you have to do it until you love it. But either way, once you set your goals on it, stay on it long enough for it to prove itself out. Because sometimes we give up just inches away from where true personal happiness is, which personal happiness is almost always surrounded by success and people you care to be around. So I really remember that day so well, and the people.
Wow.
And now it's almost 44 years ago. And
Where was that, Sam? What?
It's in a little town called Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm originally from New Orleans. I was in New Orleans, and my dad graduated. He was an architect, and he opened his firm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, a small, sleepy little firm. And so that's where I mostly grew up. I really did never grow up, but that's where I worked on it.
That's a great answer. That's the answer I was looking for, Chris. You?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And so, Sam, what do you, besides, your mum trying to get you out of trouble that you were going to be in with your dad, what do you owe your parents?
Well, my parents are quite different. My dad was, as I said, he was an architect. He was a very at the table drawing blueprints. And when I started diagramming haircuts, I talked to my dad about it, and he showed me how to take the paper overlays and draw the infrastructure of the cut they had, and then lay another one over the section. So my dad taught me to have that focus, and he used to always say, it's not the picture on the wall or even the wall, it's what's behind the wall that creates the integrity of the structure. If the structure, like our new apartment we were getting, Holly's really good at this. She said, it's got such good bones. It's going to be so amazing because it was built so well. So my dad helped me understand life has good bones and that. And my mom, on the other hand, was an insatiable learner. She left school at probably 7th grade, but she was going to college with 7 kids when she was in her late 40s. She was her energy level was off the charts. And so that's kind of what I owe to each of them. They came from totally different directions. My dad was able to control. He put down cigarette smoking when he was a very young man and we were little kids. And my mom struggled with putting down cigarettes and early on even drinking, but she could never stop smoking. So it's different, the difference, and bless them because they both give you so much. You just have to look for the little kernels of absolute wonderfulness. And I love my parents so much. They're both gone now.
Aww.
That's tough.
I love them too, because look what they did. They had you together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sam, I'm so interested to know the cutting system that you really, how do I say this? The cutting system that you were brought into, that when it clicked, like when you knew, oh wow, there is an actual way to design a haircut. What was that for you? What did that look like? Who was that?
Well, very early on, I saw an ad in the back of Modern Salon magazine, which I have some very old ones laying here that very old Modern Salon magazine, 212.
Yep.
And I saw a little box, and that very first was a picture of a very long shape that would be very current today, and it was done by Paul Mitchell. So I saw there was a class in New York City,
Oh.
and simultaneously, and almost at the same moment, I found about the Sassoon Academy in London. So frankly, I don't remember exactly how each of them went, but I ended up a week in New York City, sleeping on the floor of Paul's apartment for a couple nights because I was on the sofa. I got kicked off for a more senior hairdresser. But I literally slept on the floor. And then I went to London, and I remember they had to build a ramp and all in the Davies Mews, I believe it was. And I remember watching and listening to this guy, I think his name is Trevor. And and that whole gang, I watched all
Got
of
it.
And the light bulbs were just blinking and blinking. And I think part of what's important for everyone to understand today is back then, there wasn't this plethora of information being rained upon us. It wasn't us trying to figure out how to meditate to get calm, to find a calm space. It was actually just the opposite. We were just begging like sponges for knowledge. And whether we were a horticulturist or a chemist, or in my case, a hair designer, we were looking for every little bit of information.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this one of the things we have to understand in echoing or the two against one another is that find your calmness in today and be able to find what sparks your interest at a deep level in the work that you do. For me, it was easier, I think, because the space wasn't that crowded. There were just a few people saying, you have to pull it out smooth and straight from the head, keep your elbow tucked in, palm to palm, and work your thumb. And you put your thumb down. You got these expensive clothes that you're wearing, Sam, because you're an American and you came over here all this money to London. Put your scissors on your expensive jacket and move just the thumb, because if you move both of them, you're going to cut your fabric and you're going to cut it wrong. You don't want to cut your jacket. So there were just so many things that I just clung on to, and many of them I have lots and lots of stuff here in my home in Louisiana. I have stuff that goes all the way back roughly 44, 45 years.
What do you mean about stuff? What sort of stuff have you got?
I have the original postcards from the Sassoon Academy promoting classes. I have some snapshots of me cutting a fall line haircut from '72. On and on, stuff like that. I have scissors. I have videos. I have menus from the little room where we used to. I remember the first time I bought the trifle. I'd never heard of a trifle. And so here I'm a kid and I eat sweets like crazy. We would stand online and waiting for the models lined up to choose our model in the morning at the Sassoon school. And I still have a little menu from that. Notes written to me by just, the most amazing people throughout the history of hair. And one thing I try to always do, although I always paid attention to a world of security from investments and savings and all that, because I wanted to be able to play forever, not have to work. I wanted to have the money. I really decided to burn my bridges at one point, so I couldn't leave the island of beauty. And I was going to have to figure out how to make a life as an entrepreneurish hairstylist, because I had no way out. And that has always been part of what's driven me. It's just to always sort it out, figure out how do I keep moving forward, but keep moving forward, I do,
I think you just answered my next question. I was going to say, I was going to ask you, what traits do you have that you're most proud of? But I think you just nailed that answer. So I'm going to ask you another question then.
Okay, go ahead.
What has been your most embarrassing moment?
I really thought, because I saw some of the questions in advance. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I did, but it's helpful that you do. And I mean, you know, if you look at personally in life, and then you look at from the business standpoint of life, I'm very much a person that hovers way up high and looks at the big picture, but I live for what's going on right now. And you know, Chris, I remember one time being so excited about doing a hair show, and I'll speak to the industry. And I was so excited to do a hair show. And following me was someone that's really one of my dear friends and his whole original team. And that was Anthony Muscola. And we were at in London at I forget what it was called, but not the Royal Albert, but we were, Hollywood. but I remember running 35 minutes late. And I was so desperately embarrassed by keeping Anthony and James and all those people that I admired so much, keeping them waiting. And I learned a lesson that day. You know, stay on time or finish early. Promise less and deliver more. And so that would be that. I mean, there's lots of other stuff.
I think you were probably either at Earl's Court or Wembley. Earl's Court, I was there.
Oh. And I'll tell you what about that, besides remembering how embarrassed I was, and it really, really drove me crazy for years. It was like the first time I turned someone's hair green and didn't know what to do, which only happened once. I remember them doing the song Nikki by Prince, as if, I think it might have been a part of the show or the finale. And I thought, I should never have even come here. This is so freaking amazing what they're doing. And I think part of being the best you is being able to just give it all up for everybody else and be able to admire, love, speak positively about your brothers and sisters in the industry and even that are not in the industry. So that's my most embarrassing professional.
Well, you know, they're not embarrassing moment, but I mean, the one running late on a show, oh gosh, we've all been there, and you feel awful as you're coming off stage, walking past the people that have been waiting in the wings. I know. Oh, it's awful. But you know, Sam, you do have that reputation that you love everyone and respect everyone that you're surrounded by in the industry. And that's one of the reasons that we really wanted you to be on iConixxx, because you are so, so loved by everyone. Doesn't matter which side of the pond, you're as loved as you are in the US. It's wonderful.
I'm glad to hear that. I tried.
And very and understandable. Like, you're very understanding when you're describing yourself. It's like you're right there at home with us, right? That's one of the things I remember watching you for years cut hair on stage. And if I took you back to one place, it was in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And it was Stevens Point.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember Stevens Point.
Yep. And it was
What?
It was an aerial show that I worked with you at. Yeah.
I just saw a bill to our salon, and it said, who bought Ariel? One of the big companies that bought Ariel. But it said the big company name, and then next to it said Ariel Beauty Supply, because it used to be called Ariel. But anyway, you know, I'll tell you, the best shows were the ones where there were 400, 600 people in a third tier market. I did a show for 700 people on the Nemesis, that boat in the dock in New York City. I did this show, and there's all these cool people and all. But walking off the stage in a town, in a third tier town, a place like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and having those people come up and just talk to you and hug you and thank you, and you could feel the fire. Wow. What a great experience. I trade that for any big time show any day of the week.
So where was your first salon? Where was the first salon that you went to work at? And was it in Louisiana?
Yeah, I went to work for a guy, and I remember thinking, what an old guy he was. He's like 34. His name was Jim, Jim Crippen, and I was 17-ish or so, whatever, barely 17. And the first thing he taught me to do was to change the air conditioned filters, wash down the floors, comb out wigs and hair pieces. They had a little room for that, and go at 4 o'clock and get him a jug of wine. And the guy was amazing. He was a gift. Even though he was quirky, he really used to hit me with the comb and say, "You're not combing that evenly." The day I said, "I'm broke, I have no money, I'm sleeping in a 1956 Chevrolet right outside the back door of the salon," I literally did that. I said, "I want to go to London." I'll never forget, he had a roll of cash with a rubber band on it. And he just handed it to me. And he said, "Go and learn." So he was, and his wife, Sherry, that was my very first salon. And pretty quickly, I went to London, went to New York quite a lot. And then I very quickly decided one day, my dad actually influenced me. He said, "You really should try it on your own." And the music was changing. The world of music was changing. This was 1976. And at that moment, it was just that special moment. And so I decided to go start off on my own in a little place. And within about 8 months or a year, I get a call, and it was Jim, my former boss. He said, "Listen, I have a problem, and I have two choices. I can sell my salon to my arch enemy, or will you buy it?" And this is 8 months, 10 months after my 19, 21-year-old self had left working for him. So I didn't even know what he was talking about, but he had a tax lien. He hadn't paid his taxes. And I went to the bank and I showed it to the banker, and the bank said, "So for $42,000, you can take over this business. It's doing $300,000, which was a lot of money back then."
Yeah.
And I went from having 4 employees to having 28 employees overnight. My boss was working for me. And then within 3 weeks, my boss sent me a little sign just like that from the back door. He walked out the door, got in his van, and drove away. And I only saw him once again for the rest of our lives. So he was very important to me. And when I left, by the way, I never took anyone with me. When Ursula and Anna, two of the top people that worked for him, came over and said, "We want to work for you," I said, "Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to teach people." And eventually I ended up having him work for me because he had to sell the business. So sometimes the secret to life is to realize there's the stimulus of what excites you, and there's a response of what you do with that stimulus. But the only thing that matters is the quality of the pause. And if the pause is done with the right frame of mind, and you really know what it is you're trying to accomplish, the response will be unbelievable. And that's something that I've used SPR all my life.
Yeah.
That's great. That's inspiring.
Absolutely. That's called integrity, I think, as well, Sam, is that you weren't thinking about yourself. You were thinking about the impact on this person that had helped you out. And, you know, I don't know how you feel, but I think that's disappearing quite a lot these days. Or am I just getting old and cynical? I don't know.
You know, yesterday I used a weird analogy yesterday, talking to someone who's probably, I don't know, maybe 40. And he asked me about, I made a reference to an Oldsmobile automobile. And he jokingly said to me, "Well, I love cars, so I know just what you're talking about." And whenever I hear things like that, I always juxtapose the question of, okay, am I thinking like a person that's lived quite a long time now? Or am I keeping fresh and modern? And I think the only thing I can find that helps me answer that is the bombardment of information is so stimulating to the human brain. Our fight and flight response is so stimulated that people are just not sure. And so they're moving around, they're moving on, they're not as trustworthy. I think we're probably at a moment where trust is at its very lowest. And so what I think you should do is truly concentrate on being true to yourself and do what you say you're going to do, and don't try to say you're going to do too much, because you're going to overdo it, and you can't live up to all those commitments. You know, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. What would you say, Sam, has been your biggest disappointment throughout your life?
God, so many, Chris. So many things that have disappointed myself. There was a point where people disappointed me, but it doesn't happen hardly at all anymore. Holly could disappoint me. I don't even let my kids disappoint me anymore, because I don't hold them at that standard, but Holly and I are together so much, maybe. I disappointed myself in some business decisions along the way, but I don't look in the rearview mirror at it at all. I believe life is about today and moving forward. So I really don't dwell too much there on disappointment. I could name things, but I don't think that the actual stories are nearly as important as the response to them. And my response has been to move on, and to move on with my head held up, and just try to learn from mistakes and disappointments. When I was a young boy, I had a girlfriend that dumped me, and it was really the one and only time where, I was so heartbroken. I was so deeply heartbroken by it. But I moved on, and even to this day, I remember that as such a big lesson to try to figure out, well, what did I do wrong? And it's, you know what? It's okay. You just move on. So
Exactly. Yeah. And Holly's grateful that you moved on and that you come to. So,
I think so, most of the time.
Oh.
Well, I'd like to ask you what inspires you when you're in your creative photo, what am I thinking? Like your editorial mode. What inspires you? What do you research into? Talk to the students on this one that are involved in contests. They're working on their way to get to NAHA, and they're young baby little fetile hairstylists. So what would be what you would say has inspired you or brings you excitement that helps you create your looks?
So I think that there's a universe of people and things that will affect everybody in what they do creatively, in this case with hair, but there's also a universe of creativity that has to do with other disciplines, whether it's carving wood, or it's molding clay, or it's making flower arrangements, or clothing, cloth, fabric, all these things that make up the essence of what design is about. I think that becoming a student of the essence of design in a wide range of disciplines is probably the most effective way to deliver on your own expectations. So I do, I still call them storyboards, but I do mood boards.
Yeah.
And I go through and I'll do a look, and I'll spread it out, and I'll start looking at colors and fabrics and that sort of thing. So still that, I try to watch, and I don't even like to use the word try, you either do or you don't, but I focus on looking at some of the people that I think are producing really beautiful work and continue to produce beautiful work. And I also pay attention to how some people, and I would say probably 8 out of 10 of the lead people that stay, quote, in the sort of vanguard of this beauty industry, they really don't change that much of what the essence of their look is. A clean Sassoon line, a choppy, wild Anthony Muscolo shape, any of those things, the beautiful French moving hairstyle, all those things, they stay very consistent to their core. So for me, I save so many of these magazines, and every now and then I'll sacrifice some of them you know, from I have stacks and stacks going back years and years and years. I have in my office here 2 bookshelves that are huge, and literally from top to bottom, they're filled with 3-ring binders, and I would say probably 350, 400 3-ring binders of images dating back that I did 90% of them. And I've shot with a lot of amazing, you know, photographers. I stood next to Serge. I don't remember Serge's last name, but he's the photographer that did all the.
Serge Normand.
No, not the hairdresser.
Oh, not that. Oh, okay. The
Photographer that it was Anthony Mascola's photographer that inspired Anthony to become a photographer. And, you know, I've mentioned Anthony now 3 times. He was always a really good friend of mine and very encouraging, but so also were Trevor and many of these other people. So I think it's just important. Look, if you're new and you're fresh and you're alive in the business today and you're trying to figure your way forward, first off, put a stake in the ground for what you stand for artistically, and then start building that group of people around you that will forever be there for you. If I want to call Eric Fisher right now, or if I want to call Eric Fisher at 4 a.m. in the morning, Eric Fisher is going to pick up my call and go, Sam, what's going on? Is there something? If it's 4 a.m., he's going, are you drunk? What's going on? These people are lifelong friends of mine.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of it. And that's why earlier I said, don't burn bridges. You can have arguments and you can have fights and disagreements, and you can fight and compete with one another. But your inspiration is going to come from a lot of different people. So continue to reach out. You know, architecture has always been a big deal to me because of my father. So,
yeah.
It's interesting what you're saying. I just spent the last couple of days judging Naha, and you're so right about how when a person, or let's say the handful that are at the top of our industry, that are continually winning Nahas all the time, they get their formula and they stick to it. And that's why their work just continues to get better and more refined and just beautifully executed. And that's the only way, is to keep practicing, but find, like you said, get your stake in the ground of who you are as an artist, what you represent, and then don't dilute, just keep making it better and better and better. Did you enter this year, Sam?
No, but I'm judging. I just spent I get so obsessed with it. And I'm sitting right here, but I judged Avant-Garde day before yesterday. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to judge 2 more. You know, I keep telling different people I know that this year I'm going to enter again, and I just haven't so far. You know, I think it's important, but I haven't. I love judging.
Yeah,
I really love the process.
Yeah, I do too, and you know, it's such a responsibility.
You know, the thing it's kind of sad is that Damien Carney, who you know, and I think you guys have interviewed, Damien is such a close friend of mine, and he'd shoot any time with me. And we did shoot. We've shot a few times in the last few years. But I'm almost a little ashamed to say that I have such an amazing resource as Damien, and I haven't shot. I said to him as early as I talked to him on the phone on Friday, and I said to him, make me do it, Damien. He said, that's your responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we did interview Damien quite a few weeks ago now. I just love that guy. And I'm so happy that he's with you in the salon.
Yeah, he's such a beautiful spirit to have with us. He's so wonderful with everybody. And, you know, every now and then he'll come up and say something to me or to Holly about what he needs or wants or something. And I'm like, Damien, here's the key. You do whatever you want, man. You like so earned it. You don't have to ask me. So yeah, he's amazing. And the clients love him. Now he has tried to do a couple of my regular favorites and they came back to me.
Oh, see? Can't win them all.
We stay competitive. But no, he's watching, standing in the corner, watching. And whenever he starts cutting hair, I tell anyone that's not busy, if you're not watching Damien, you're really missing a grand opportunity, because he's so amazing in the way he touches and moves the hair around. It's just completely unbelievable. The clients are just, you can tell they're like, duh.
Yeah. Yeah, he was like that when he was working with us in London.
Amazing.
Yeah, see, he put his stake in the ground and stuck to it.
He really has. He really has. He's so consistent.
Mm.
Yeah, he was a great interview. Very nice man. Very talented.
Mm-hmm.
God, can you imagine the energy going on at your salon? Woo, dude! So
Yeah.
when did you hike yourself up to New York, Manhattan?
Well, we in 2007. No. What am I saying? 2001. The Neil Corp, who is a big distributor, a Veda distributor, and people in Louisiana, approached me to buy a part of my business, my 2 schools. I had 2 academies, and I told them I didn't really want to sell. So a short while later, they called back and said, well, what if we offered to buy everything? And I had turned down an opportunity, and this may shock you, but Arnie and Sidell Miller offered me 2% of Matrix when it was still small. I didn't want to move to, yeah, exactly. I didn't want to move to Cleveland. I'd gone through a bad business partnership. I loved Arnie. I thought he was just a great guy and just a driver. And so I didn't do that. So this time, Holly said, you should do this. So I said, okay, but if we sell the business, where will we live? And she and both of the kids at the time said, let's move to New York.
Yeah.
Oh.
I said, well, we're going to have a little bundle of money. So, okay, why don't we give it a try? And here it is 20 years later, and we're buying our second apartment there. And we've been in business for 12-ish, almost 13 years in the salon business. And we're on to our second product line. So it's been this is the longest we've been away from New York in all the 20 years, these 30 days.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard for me to be away from New York, I have to say. I've been here since February.
Yeah.
In the UK. Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure New York will still be there, and hopefully it'll be a better place eventually. I know it's been very tough there.
It's going to take quite a while. You know, we closed one of our salons. We had 2. We had a small one on the Upper East Side. And I'll say, this is a little bit of a brag, but I'm going to say it now. But we called, Zoomed in all 11 employees to that salon. It was a profitable salon. It was making a little bit of money. And we said, listen, you're all welcome to come back to work for us, but you can't go back to East 61st Street, because we're going to close the salon, because we think this is going to be a long-term painful situation with COVID. And a little salon like that would be hard to survive, and the landlords being of no help whatsoever, wanting to get on the phone with us. So I said on a Monday or Tuesday, until next week, you have to let us know so we can start scheduling. And you know, every single one of them came from the Upper East Side, where they've been for years, and moved their business and came down to our Soho salon. And here we are in November, right? No, it's December. And everybody's still there. Matter of fact, yesterday, Sunday, because we're open 7 days a week, 12 hours a day now, just to be able to stay in business. They had a really good day yesterday. Still not enough to, it's going to take quite a while, but I'm so proud. We didn't lose anybody.
That's wonderful.
Almost every one of 50 people stayed. And we just...
Sam, who in their right mind would leave you? I mean, really?
Oh no, we've had people leave, and I had a guy call me yesterday, a really, really talented guy, does lots of celebrities and all, and he called me because, you know, I need to work somewhere, and you know, we know each other pretty well. We've talked for quite a bit, and I said, what do you need? And what he wanted, I said, listen, I can barely pay the rent now. I can't pay you that way. So one of the lessons I've learned is, you know, it's like you have to stick to your belief model in life. You have to stick to your business model and know that and you have to trust in yourself. Someone's going to not just come along. You have to find them, but you're going to find the people to do the job that you need to do. So there are people that, they just, they don't see the bigger picture maybe.
Right.
So you just have to move on.
Yeah. Oh boy.
It takes vision at every level. Even the newest student has to have a vision. And the newest person on our team at the moment was Victoria. She was with us 2 weeks. But recently, she was with us 2 weeks, the 19-year-old from New Jersey. And she was with us 2 weeks, and we included her in the money we raised through a GoFundMe account where every single week she got a check on Friday. And she got the same amount as the people that have been there 10 years. And we did that to show everybody that we're all of equal standings, and we will continue standing if we fight together and realize that the basics are we got to pay the rent, we got to be fed, we have to be safe, and we have to be healthy. And let's all do that together right now so we can survive through this and get to the other side. Because you're right, New York will rebuild. It'll be good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Come on.
That's fantastic.
Chestnuts roasting on the open fire, right? Don't you miss that? Those nuts on the corner? Come on. I need to get back there. I need to get back there too.
They're so far and few between, those chestnut people. Really, they're not. Honestly, I love them as well. And there used to be one right across the road from our apartment, but no more. Anyway.
Yeah, well.
Quite different now. It's a ghost town.
Yeah, it really is different. Sam, is your salon a commission salon?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Kudos to you. Because for 21 years, Joy and I had a commission salon, and we've had to look at things a little different. And I'm wondering what how do you feel about growing them and then they go off into rental, which is very common. I mean, I'm not bringing up anything that isn't common.
Yeah.
But, in this day and age now with the hybrids, you've got to kind of have a mix of both, which has always been against my whole business model. Yeah. But what's your take on that? I mean, outside of getting angry, outside of getting like parasital.
Yeah, I would have not. I do think, and Chris, because you've been in Manhattan and New York in that area, it's a little bit different there. It's less different right now than it was 5 years ago, but it is kind of a unique microcosm of salon businesses, and there are Boothman salons 1, 2, 3, 4 within 3 blocks of us that have all popped up in the last 2 years.
Sure.
So here's what I think about booth, suite, whatever that may be. Excuse me. At the end of the day, the wheel of your time, which is broken up into everything from sleep to eating to family to education, health, all these things, it does not change as far as it being stamped on us as a tattoo, saying these are things that have to be taken care of. Sure. So if a person chooses to be on their own and have a suite or even a rent by the hour, I just a few hours ago sent a message to Sheila Wilson, the president of ICA in Coiffure, about a $2.2 million seed funding for a salon thing that by the hour rental. And
oh my God.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys after we're off the talk. I just read it a few hours ago. And I still think at the end of the day, there you could take $1 and you could carve it up all sorts of ways. There's only one way to carve 100 pennies or 100 pence. There's only one way to carve it up differently, in my opinion, other than just being really smart and knowing how to fine tune the numbers. I know how to fine tune cost of goods. I know how to get 3.5% cost of goods. I've worked on it my whole career. A lot of people spend a lot more on cost of goods. I know that if I can capture total cost of of compensation between 50 and 60%. And I could control my cost of goods and control my cost of occupancy. If I can boil that down to a few things, I can shave off a decent profit if I can have a nice enough volume, with or without a great retail ticket. I can do it in service business.
Yep.
But what I know that a lot of people will do is they will get, and this is why I'm so in love with, I don't buy Bitcoin, I'm not interested in Bitcoin, but the digital society where there's no cash that my boss could hand me a rubber band roll of $10 bills, that world is going away. Cash is dirty. Most people are just beginning to realize that's a germ-filled, dirty piece of paper. So
yes.
the ability to actually, at the end of a $400 day, tuck $160 in your pocket and say you only did this much, those days are fading. With all the apps and all the technology, the federal government, the governments of the world are standing right there reading the data. They know how to talk to someone, even like me, that does not. I have a rule of thumb, and I did it every time. When I opened a new salon, the first day of transactions, all the cash Holly and I took and we put it in our purse. We stole it. I'm admitting it. Every salon I ever opened, from the very first, I would take all the cash. If we did $1,000 and it was $400 in cash, I took the cash. But I only did it as good luck charm, and I did it one time at the beginning of the business. And it was just an old joke and a habit. But my point is this, those days are passing. So things are in a very interesting shift. We have COVID,
yeah.
We had that whole suite rental thing as it evolves. But at the end of the day, I can provide a person that wants a place where they can show up. Damien's a great example. He wants to show up, hang out with the people, talk about the craft that's been his life, work on really wonderful guests. And if they want to pay $200 or $250 or whatever it may be, or just $80, he doesn't care. He loves the craft. He's crafted a life for himself to be able to afford. So what we believe we are purveyors of a space with a place where people can work and make a really good living.
I like that.
Right now is the hardest time, obviously. And this, I will say, I'm thankful that in this long journey, in this beautiful world of beauty, that I'm getting to be a voyeur and be a part of this transition, because I love change. This change may scare the shit out of me, but I love change, and I am really interested in what it looks like once we get ashore again.
Yeah, I agree.
I
totally agree.
Commission model will continue.
Yeah.
You'll keep having hybrids and versions, and I do think a commission salon needs to have very strong leadership and a salon owner standing behind the chair doing hair all day long and expecting everybody else to just, the thing will work. You have to run a business. And anybody that went into COVID not prepared with a good business model got already taken out. And if they're not already taken out,
that's true.
Very
well said. Well said, young man.
Yeah, I am.
Highlight you. Highlighter. Highlight him. Highlight him. If I had a highlighter, he'd be yellow right now if I could highlight him. Oh, I'm telling you.
All right, Joseph.
Sam.
Ask Sam about his time capsule.
Sam, listen to me for a minute when I'm talking to you. Here we go on a little visual trip. We're at an old school, like an academy. It's been around for years, right? And it keeps getting passed down through generations. And the school is perhaps 85 years old now. And the now son of the son of the son of the son of the son is, running it. But they're in the back, smoking cigarettes or doing whatever stylists do outside, and they see something and they go over to kick it. How do you like that, Chris? They go over to kick it, and it almost looks like one of those like at the bank when you send your money to the teller. It's like a little tube, and they open the tube, and in it is a list of all these icons in the industry. And there you are, Sam. And what do you want them to read about you?
Gosh, I plugged into the industry very early on. I did it out of love and passion. And that first moment of love and passion genuinely was because I felt bad for my mom because I thought I was letting them down. And I just loved all the people in the school.
Yeah.
But I quickly learned that the more I drilled down in trying to do what other great people were doing ahead of me and in front of me, including Jim, my first boss, including people that I met in New York and London, eventually, if I tried hard enough in the quiet moments of my effort, I became me. I found myself. And I didn't do it going, I'm looking for myself, even though I was reading Siddhartha and these books, Khalil Gibran. I was reading all that stuff. What I was doing was drilling into my craft as it meant what it meant to me. And I began to emerge. So the person that sits here now is an example of 45 years of being a little bit of a lone wolf, going my own path, but always waking up and saying, I know I can do this. And I'm genuinely interested in it. And I am today. I love the industry and I love every aspect of it. What an interesting thing to do for a living. You meet the best people, all the time. So
Very well said.
Loving the industry.
Very well said, my friend. And I hope that I can call you at 4 o'clock in the morning after this Zoom, that we've just built that connection together, Sam.
Absolutely. Of course.
I'll put you on my Christmas list if that happens, okay?
Yeah.
Sam, have your kids gone into the business?
Absolutely. My son Gianni, who's lovingly named after Gianni Versace, he is in Atlanta. He's working in Atlanta, and he's talking seriously with his girlfriend, soon to be maybe wife, about them doing a business thing together. She's not a hairstylist, so yes, one has. And the other one is actually becoming a very successful filmmaker. He owns Ticking Clock Productions in New York City. And so he's in the film business. And so that's what the two of them do. So one is and one is.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So what sort of film production company is Ticking Clock? What sort of films do they make?
Yeah, talk to us a little bit.
He's done lots of, like, he started off mostly doing music videos, which I think a lot of the filmers start music videos and going around to the festivals. He's run the festival, all of the sound and not sound, but the show at what's that thing in New Orleans? The festival, it's a big festival he's done forever. And Sice, what's the name? He's done Cadillac, he's done Coca-Cola, he's done lots of commercials. And he's just getting and now we're getting Holly in the picture.
Good, come and say hi.
Hi, Holly. Hi, Holly. Come and show us your hair, Holly.
All right.
Oh man.
Come on, you can do it. It's okay. Oh, there you are.
I'm the peanut gallery here.
Long time no see.
What's the thing he did for the sound? The guy.
He just does a little bit of everything, Sam. They're the people who will do everything that other people aren't willing to do.
He's a writer.
And he's young.
Very good writer. And he's been in front of the camera a lot.
Anyway, hello, nice seeing you. This sounds amazing.
Bye, Holly.
We're going to have dinner in New York, darling.
You have to come, yes.
Yeah.
We think late spring will be a good time.
Well, I hope to come home sooner than that.
Vaccine.
Yeah, we'll be there very soon.
Vaccine.
Nice seeing you.
Vaccine is for sure.
God, I was going to say something now and I completely forgot. It must have been a lie.
You know what?
I know what I was going to say, and that is what an honor, Sam, to have you with us.
Oh, I know. Yep. Got it. Sam, Chris, I'm rudely interrupting you as usual, but I got a message to remind me to tell you, Sam, that next week we are on iConixxx, we are interviewing Angus Mitchell.
Oh,
And how would you like to maybe give a 30-second blip to kind of promote him into?
So when Holly and I were dating, we flew to LA first, and we stayed with John Paul at his house, and we stayed in Paul's Mitchell's bedroom. And from there, we flew to Hawaii, where we spent 2 weeks with Paul. Paul picked us up at the airport in a blue convertible Mustang, and he had a bottle of champagne and a little thing that he frosted the glasses. We drank champagne, went to the house. Angus was what, 9 years old? 13. And we spent 2 weeks with Angus and Paul at the house. And Angus, we go to dinner at a restaurant with koi fish all under us. So it's a beautiful restaurant. And Angus said, "Dad, I don't want to eat dinner." He said, "Well, you just order what you want." Angus ordered 7 desserts. 7 desserts. I swear. And I was a vegetarian already, and I was like, "Ooh, this looks dangerous." So he ordered 7 desserts, and Angus I've watched him, and he used to call Holly Mom, so Paul was a dear friend of ours. He was a guest in our home many times, and Angus has just done, look, to follow in the footsteps of a dad like that, that is a job most people, if they get it, they would go, "No, thank you." There's a line in an Eagles song, I don't know why, "Fortune smiles on some, but lets the rest go free." And I can tell you, Angus has done an amazing job of not only developing his craft and continuing to love it when he doesn't need to work, but he's also made a life for himself and his son. And it's just beautiful to watch. And, I saw him 2.5 years ago at one of the last Chicago shows. And I said I was doing something with product. He goes, "Why are you doing that?" And I didn't have a chance to tell him why, because I had an opportunity to go into one of the biggest retailers in the world, and they had approached us. And that was the last time I actually talked to Angus. But you got to listen to him. His story starts from obviously birth. I mean, he was there at the side of his amazing father, and he's still surrounded by some of the greatest people. You talk about somebody who pull any string, and it isn't for money. It's because he is one of the sweetest kids, young men that exist, and generous. My brother died 9 years ago on Saturday. That's the last time I cried. And Angus's father died of pancreatic cancer. And I know that Angus has been very generous to the pancreatic research worldwide. He's a very generous person also.
So
That's awesome.
So you would tell everyone to watch him and tune in.
I will post it on my little Instagram. I'll put it.
Thank you.
Well, of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. We could be inviting you back into another type of level of interviewing that we're doing in the future. And Chris, you want to tell Sam just a little bit about it? Because we might be hitting him up with it in the next week or two.
Yeah, I think it would be great. Sam, what we would love, if you would be willing, is it's called iConixxx Chain Reaction. So it would be you interviewing someone that you believe to be an icon in our industry, whether it's a hairstylist, whether it's a business person, whoever it might be, but that we would love for you to come back and do that. Obviously it would be next year now, but that would be cool.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We'll reach out to you and then give it some thought, and it will be really good. But in the meantime, so good to see your face. Great to see Holly. Yeah. And happy move.
Yeah,
Excuse
really.
me.
I'll let her do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's in charge.
You know what?
That.
It was great. It was great seeing you again, Sam. You're an amazing fella, and continue to do what you do, because why stop now? And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. This has been a great interview, and many will watch it. And you know what? You now have been documented for history.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Take
Chris, I know
care.
it's late. Good night there in
Yeah.
England. And you guys have a wonderful evening. I think I'll
Good
go
night,
for my
Sam.
bike. I'll go for my bike ride while it's still light.